Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Thanks for being with us. Today we're talking about crowdfunding for investors and sponsors. Please welcome my next guest. It's Kevin Guy. He's CEO of Real Liquidity. Kevin, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Well, we appreciate it. And Kevin, I think one of the challenges for retail investors, if you will, into these crowdfunding deals is liquidity, right? I mean, they may invest $10,000 or whatever dollars in a deal, and they may not need it to sit there for 5 years or however long the sponsor is going to be in the deal. So one of the challenges, I think, for the crowdfunding industries is liquidity. And you have a secondary market that is providing liquidity for crowdfunding projects, or you're working on it. Tell us about your business, Real Liquidity.
Well, that's exactly it, Michael. What we're putting together is a second market for not only crowdfunded shares, but also syndicates that are out into the market. But crowdfunding has sort of pushed us to the forefront. We've been working on this for over a year. And what we're finding out there right now is with the popularity of crowdfunding, we're getting a bunch of new investors into the market. Some of them have a very good understanding of real estate. Others have a little bit more of an elementary understanding, and they're looking for yield, and that's very attractive. But once they're into these deals, they're asking themselves, how do we get out if we need our investment back? And so that's sort of where we step in and provide that marketplace where they can actually put their share up for sale, and obviously the marketplace would bid on that share. So that's the marketplace that we're working on for the crowdfunding for the crowdfunding crew out there right now.
Okay. And I think that's one of the challenges that some people think about investing in real estate, that it's not real liquid. So I think a lot of people do understand that. But, if you're a retail investor and you're investing and you do need the money for something, or maybe you think it's a good time to get out of the deal, but they're not, the sponsor's not closing out the deal yet, you'll have an exit strategy. So Kevin, tell us how it would work. So let's say I've invested in a crowdfunding deal, and maybe let's say I paid $20,000 for my share. How would it work? How would I trade that or sell that?
Well, just to back up a step there, the first thing that we would have to do is we would actually have to approve the project. And so what that would mean is that the language inside the agreement of the portal and the sponsor would have to fit within our framework. So if it's done in an LLC, we have to make sure that the language in there is such that they're going to be capable of actually trading that share. So assuming that, what they would do is they would actually bring their share onto our site, and they would actually, knowing that it's already approved by our internal people, they would actually list that share. Whether they paid $10,000 for it, they could list it, for 12 or 8 or whatever the number is, and then the marketplace would dictate the value of that share. So in essence, we would have a profile of the project on our site, so that potential buyers could come in. They could view the profile, they could see the statistics on the particular project, and then they could make an analysis on the value of that share.
Okay, and this is kind of publicly available, right? So the buyers of these shares, they could come and look at acquiring these shares on your site without a fee. What do they do? Just register and say that they're accredited investors, and they get access. And is the money paid by the seller of that share to your firm when it sells? How does all that work?
Yeah, there's a percentage that comes to us. It's a small percentage, generally under 3%, and typically, the project's going to have to be approved, so we're going to have information available to the buyer. And so, that information will become available, and, they can do further due diligence with regards to actually viewing the LLC agreement to make sure that, this is the type of deal that they want to invest in, and that they're going to have the rights that they need to in order to liquidate if they need to down the road as well. And typically this is, not a big deal for institutional investors, but as crowdfunding grows from the current level to the next level, you're going to be seeing a lot of different kinds of investors that require liquidity. Their kid, needs to go to college. They need to liquidate. They need to provide funds for something else. And so it's going to be an important aspect of the growth of crowdfunding in real estate.
Right. And so it's not available at the moment, right?
No, we're currently in the process of completing the development of our ATS platform, which is it essentially will trade, in theory, will trade like a stock exchange. Obviously, with velocity, you'll see a lot more activity, but the time frame won't, out of the gate be as quick as a stock. It could be as short as a couple weeks. But as velocity picks up over the coming years, I think that we'll increase that turnaround time dramatically.
And when do you think you'll have this running?
Right now, we're anticipating in the next 90 days that we'll have this up and running. We'll have all the parts and pieces in place, and right now we're entertaining and speaking to literally 20 to 30 different players out there that have projects. So we're taking a look at exactly what the structure and the framework's gonna need to be in order to come onto our site.
Right, and that's key. What you talked about. So the setup of the sponsor's deal has to provide a mechanism that would allow this sale of a share in a secondary market like yours, right? So some of these are set up where you're just not going to be able to do it that way.
Yeah, some of them are set up where they have to wait for a liquidity event. Others are set up where the managing member, that group, has the right of first refusal. And some of those aren't bad. We can still take a look at those and trade those. But typically we want something with as little restrictive language in the agreement as possible so that the shareholder can do what they need to do. But a right of first refusal generally is not a problem.
All right. Well, I want to know more about this. I want to hear more about this. This is fantastic for the crowdfunding industry. So stay tuned. We'll have more. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. Xceligent, the resource professionals like CCIMs, CBRE, JLL, Colliers, and Bull Realty use for market intelligence. Commercial Search is the site to market and find available properties to buy, sell, or lease all over the country. Visit commercialsearch.com. Welcome back. I'm Michael Bull, and this is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Today we're talking about crowdfunding for commercial real estate, and we're looking at views from the investor side and from the sponsor side, and we're talking with Kevin Guy, CEO of Real Liquidity, and they are setting up a secondary market to create liquidity in the crowdfunding arena. And, Kevin, we were just talking about the ability for investors in these crowdfunding deals to go to a secondary market like yours that you're building and be able to sell that share. And you mentioned that sponsors have to set up their paperwork, their legal work that would allow that. And it seems like it would behoove a sponsor to set up their paperwork so that it does allow this liquidity. So you certainly would have more retail investors, I think, interesting. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. And then you were on the ground level. You were talking to these sponsors. You were talking to all these crowdfunding folks every day. What do you see for velocity in this industry? It's kind of a new industry still, isn't it?
It's brand new in its infancy, and I think people are sitting on the sidelines. A lot of people have sat in the sidelines, and they've wanted to see what's going to happen in crowdfunding. So there's been sort of a successful launch in crowdfunding. There's been some great deals by some of the big players already out there that are generating great yields. So I think what you're seeing now is I think you're seeing more people say, hey, listen, I want some of that yield. Typically yields are anywhere from 8 to 12, 13, 14%. And so I think you're seeing a lot of people now saying, hey, it looks like they've worked out a lot of the kinks. So let's take a chance. Let's enter crowdfunding.
Well, it's great. Real estate the outlook for real estate is good. It's a good hedge against inflation, and there are some risks, though, right? When you get into commercial real estate, what tip would you provide for an investor who is buying into a crowdfunding deal or maybe buying an existing share?
Yeah, I mean, if you're an investor in a crowdfunding project, take a look at the vetting process. Take a look at the due diligence. Do your homework. It's like any other investment out there. Find out who the operator is of the project. Take a look at their history. Take a look at their success. Ask a lot of questions. So when you go into these deals, go in with your eyes wide open, because high yield means high risk. And so you have to be careful going in, make sure that the due diligence is done.
Right. And you're talking about vetting both the transaction or the property that you're buying in that market, and that property in the future there in that submarket, and looking at things like what are rents going up in that market, are occupancy levels increasing or decreasing, and what's employment like in them. There's a lot of things, and you could go into a lot of depth, and I think it's important for the investor to think about, well, am I investing $100,000, and is that a lot of money to me? I may want to pay someone like a broker like us around the country to go into that deal and give an opinion. Or maybe you're investing, $10,000, and that's, funny money to you, right? So maybe your due diligence online is enough. And then you're also talking about vetting the sponsor as well, right? That's probably the most key thing.
Yeah, you have to vet the sponsors, the operators of the deal. Make sure that they have a great track history. And if you are putting in larger sums of money, I absolutely would recommend getting a third party in there to analyze the deal stats and to take a look at the whole picture. Investing in a multifamily development in Detroit is a whole lot different than investing in multifamily in San Francisco. And I think that, you have to take a look at all aspects of the deal. Yes, the yield might be greater in a deal in Detroit, but, maybe the yield's a little less in San Francisco, but it's a more secure deal. It's like any investment.
Yeah, well, good point. And Kevin, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you being on the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael.
And thanks for joining us out there on the 40 radio stations, YouTube, and iTunes. We appreciate you being with us. Next week, we have a special show. It's called Show Me the Money, right? And we're talking about debt. We're talking about equity. So be sure and join us next week. And until next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for the Commercial Real Estate Show. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty Commercial Advisors, a great place to do business. Visit bullrealty.com. RealNex, a comprehensive and powerful suite of commercial real estate tools at an incredibly low price. Visit realnex.com. That's RealNex. FIU, Florida International University. Earn your master's in real estate in as little as 10 months without interrupting your career. Visit FIUonline.com. Xceligent, the resource professionals use for commercial real estate information. Visit Xceligent.com. That's XCELIGENT. Commercial Search, the source to market and source available properties for sale or lease. Visit commercialsearch.com. For more information on these great companies, or for additional videos, podcasts, or articles, visit CREshow.com.